A pivot table summarizes the data by rows and by columns. It's not just a summary view, but it's a dynamic view of the data in that we can choose what we want to see and how we want to see it. In our file or in our exercise, our data starts at cell A4, but it goes all the way down to row 1192. What we would do is create a pivot table or a summary of this data. To create our pivot table, we first position our cursor on cell A4, the start of the data range, and we'll go to the Insert tab. In the Tables group, we'll select Pivot Table. A pivot table wizard comes up which asks, choose the data that we want to analyze. Well, because we were positioned on cell A4, it took the entire range all the way down to 1192. And then it says choose where you want to create the pivot table. So we'll create it on a new worksheet. We'll click OK. And now we have a pivot table view. On the right hand side, we have a pivot table field list. And at the bottom, we have sections, the report filter, column labels, row labels, and values. Basically, each column heading becomes a field, and depending on how you want to summarize your data, you drag the relevant fields into the relevant sections. For example, we can take the product and drag it to the report filter, which is some sort of categorized data. We can take the year and drag it to the column labels, which would be column headings. We can take the month and drag it to the row labels section, which become our row headings. And in the middle, those values that we're seeing, this should be some sort of numeric data. So we'll take income and we'll drag it to the values section. And now, from the 1192 rows of data, we now have a summary view of how did all the products performed during the years 2001, 2002, and 2003. The fantastic thing with our pivot tables is that we can choose what we want to see, in that if we did not want to see all the products, we can click on the drop down, select a particular product and click OK, and notice the data changes. We can also select the months that we want to see, so we can click on the drop down next to row labels, uncheck that select all, check the months we're interested in, like the first quarter, click OK, and notice again the data changes. So we can choose what we want to see, and we can also choose how we wanted to see it. If we did not want this view of the pivot table, we can easily move things around. So we can take the product and make them row headings. We can take the year and make them a report filter. And we can take the months and drag them as column labels. And now we have a different view of the data. For more details on pivot tables, you can see your Excel Level 2 workbook.